Well, here we are at my year-end countdown. Just like last time around, I'm going to be ranking every countdown I made this year from worst to best. 2016 wasn't as big a year for my channel as 2015 was, but it still was pretty good. Obviously, my videos have gotten better, I've gotten better editing software, and I hit 5,000 subscribers this year, and came pretty close to 10,000.
Hey, what about me?
Oh god, not you again.
Yeah, I was introduced this year too, and I gotta say, making a list of the best countdowns you made this year is pretty egotistical, don't you think?
What? It's just a year-end recap video in the form of a countdown, because I typically do countdowns. Tons of people do year-end recap videos.
Just keep telling yourself that. I'll be here if you need me.
I don't need you. Get out of here. Seriously. So yeah, he also got introduced this year. But anyway, back to the list. Now before we start, I'm just going to say that this is how I feel about each of my countdowns, and the way you feel might be different. But anyway, with all that said, let's begin. Top 8 least favorite games I've played. Boy, this one really hurt to go back and watch. This is really the only one of my countdowns this year that I would actually consider to be bad. It's not terrible or anything, but it's definitely bad compared to a lot of the other stuff I've done this year. I really wanted to make the video, but looking back on it, it was actually a pretty terrible idea because I'd never actually played that many games enough to make a fair judgment on them that were bad enough to be on the list of the worst games I've ever played. Because typically when I'm playing a game and I'm not having a good time, I just stop. I don't torture myself by forcing myself to play the game all the way to the end while being miserable the entire time. I mean, in terms of how long I've played it, Disney Universe just barely made the cut for the list. Not to mention, my reasoning wasn't exactly the best either. Sometimes I didn't go into enough detail, other times I spent too much time focusing on one point. I mean, the way I worded my Chase Begins entry made it seem like I was a complete snob who only liked games that had voice acting, which isn't even close to being true. Also, as some of you probably already know, someone by the name of Doodle Tones did a commentary on that video. I did not like that commentary, but it did make me realize what I was doing wrong, not with just this video, but with my videos in general. The commentary prompted me to go into a lot more detail and be a lot more clear with what I was saying in my videos. So congrats, Doodle Tones. Most commentaries on me just get on my nerves, but this one got on my nerves and helped me out. So thanks for helping me improve. Top 10 games of 2015. Honestly, I don't think I've ever been more stressed out in the process of making a video. Now, in terms of the games I picked and what I had to say about them, I am proud of this video. But in terms of the process of making it, it was a nightmare. So what happened? Well, basically, I got way more footage than I should have. 13 hours worth of footage for a 15-minute long video probably isn't a good idea. But at the time, I didn't see the problem there. I went to export the video and it wouldn't work because there wasn't enough disk space. So I tried a method to delete all the clips that I didn't end up using in the project, but it deleted the clips that were in the project as well. If I remember correctly, that also included voice clips. So as you would imagine, I was really stressed out, thinking that all my hard work had just disappeared. Thankfully, I managed to recover the missing clips and put them all back in place, which took a very long time. When I had everything back in place, I did a screen recording to capture the video and used my microphone to capture the audio, which is why it sounds so bad. And the worst part is, I could have avoided all of that by either A, not being a complete maniac when getting the footage, or B, simply exporting at a lower quality. I'm sure the video is way better than I'm giving it credit for, but the sheer amount of torment it put me through is enough for me to call it the worst good countdown I've made this year. Okay, so now that we're done with the video that was actually bad and the video that was a nightmare to edit, here we are at one of the most meh countdowns I've made in a while. Now, I don't hate top 10 No More Heroes bosses, but looking back on it, and kinda while I was making it too, I was pretty unsatisfied with it. Most of the entries feel really short, like I didn't go into enough detail for them. Not all the entries felt like this. I think I did a pretty good job in the Bad Girl entry, and some of the others were pretty good too. But I just can't shake the feeling that some of these entries could have been a lot better than they were. But despite that, it's still an alright video, and if you're a fan of No More Heroes or curious about the series, you might as well check it out. top 5 other bosses in video games was one of my smallest lists of the year, and honestly, that's kind of what it was supposed to be. I mean, after Nostalgia Creek and SJWs, which I honestly think is one of the best videos I made all year, I didn't have a whole lot of time, so I needed a short, easy to make countdown for the next week, and this was it. But you know, for being such a small scale video, I think I did a pretty good job on it. Basically, my thought process was that there were a lot of bosses that I wanted to talk about, but I had already made top 15 bosses in video games, so I didn't have the chance. So I figured, hey, if there's enough bosses I want to talk about, I can just put them in their own list. And that's what I did. I think I did a pretty good job with each entry, and I don't really have much else to say, because honestly, there wasn't really that much to that video in the first place. Top 10 Rabbids Go Home levels. For those of you who've seen it, you know that a fan requested it, and honestly, I'm really glad that they did. It really gave me a nice opportunity to look back on the game and remember all the fun stuff about it. Honestly, I don't think anything would have given me the opportunity to talk about the game as in-depth as I did in that video. Rewatching the video really reminds me of how good the game is, and I hope I convinced at least a couple people to check out the game even though they're not really that big a fan of Rabbids. Cause I've said it before and I'll say it again. I can't blame anyone who was sick and tired of the Rabbids by the time this game came out. But I still think it's good and kind of overlooked, and it was nice to finally get a chance to make an in-depth video on it. Top 10 darkest games I've played is a list of mine that I like, but I really wish I could like more than I do. Honestly, I think I did a good job on the list, a good job with my picks, and a good job explaining them. What I do not think I did a good job on, though, was the audio. I don't get it either. In the later entries and the intro, it's fine, but in the earlier entries, it's really bad. I can't entirely blame myself for this, though, because this is the first video I made in Final Cut Pro. In other words, I have an excuse. I was getting used to a new editing software. Using Final Cut really did pay off, especially with the Super Mario Logan videos, but here I was still kinda getting used to it. That being said though, in terms of the other stuff in this video, I think it turned out pretty well. The reason this video is so high up in spite of the audio is, like I said, I think I did a really good job with my picks and what I had to say about them. So in other words, I still recommend checking it out, especially if you don't mind audio issues that much. Top 15 craziest characters. It was fun to make and I really enjoyed how it turned out. I got picks from a wide variety of games and I think I did a good job explaining why I thought each one was crazy. My personal favorite part of the video was the Boyd Cooper entry because I shared a theory that I've been thinking up for a while about the Milkman conspiracy. If there's one regret I have about this list, it's that maybe I should have had the number 3 spot be a tie between Bad Girl and New Destroy Man. But outside of that, I don't really have much else to say about this video. It's just good and I like it. Top 10 video game endings. Honestly, this one I associate most with top 10 darkest games. Probably because they have the same number of entries and are relatively similar in length. I think I made good picks and did a good job explaining why I thought they were worthy of being on the list. I know what I said back there just sounded super generic, but I really don't have that much to say about this video. I had fun making it, and I had fun rewatching it. There's really not that much more to say. Oh, look, a tie. Gee, I wonder which 2 videos it's between. Yeah, that's right, it's the SML videos. Honestly, these 2 were kinda stressful to make with just how much I had to do for each one. These 2 are the main reasons why I kept slipping up with weekly uploads towards the end of the year. But it was definitely worth it. The videos turned out really good, and not to be that kinda guy, but they did rake in a lot of views. Seriously, 50,000 within the first 3 weeks for the worst list? That's pretty good. The reason I tied them at this spot is because there's really not that much of a difference in terms of how I view them. Probably because I kinda just made them. I will say that for the worst list, I do think my reasoning for some of the earlier entries was pretty weak, but I also kinda warned about that in advance, so it's not really that big of a deal. At least not from my perspective. One thing I was really happy about was the reception that my Jeffy's Bad Words segment got. A lot of people said I really did a good job of tearing that video to shreds. As for the best list, I I don't really have anything to say about that video specifically. These videos were long, took forever to make, and really paid off in the end. Not to mention, editing these videos is when I really feel like I managed to get the hang of Final Cut Pro. Fun fact about these videos, I've never shuffled around entries more than I have with these two videos. Thankfully, Final Cut Pro makes it really easy to shuffle entries around, but I'm still going to try to be more decisive in the future. That's it, right? He's not going to show up or anything? I'm good? Okay.
Wait, who's not going to show up?
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
You let Freeze talk about the video he was in on your last year-end recap. Why can't I talk about the video I was in?
Okay, fine, I guess you're right. Go ahead.
Thank you. Top 20 worst Super Mario Logan videos is the best countdown that Dafawfulizer ever made. Because I'm in it.
Oh, now you're the one calling me egotistical? You better look in the mirror, pal.
Hey, I'm not done here.
Actually, I think you are. Now, get out before I call the cops.
Fine.
Well, now that he's gone, again, let's move on to the next entry. Who would have guessed? A video from this early in the year scoring this high on the list. I certainly didn't see that coming, but when I rewatched the video, I really did like it. I think I did a really good job talking about each entry and explaining why I like the show so much. Unfortunately, I don't think I got that many people who haven't seen the show to check it out, but a lot of fans of Dan Vs. had seen the video and were really happy with it. Funny story, it turns out that I'm not the only one who made a top 15 Dan Vs. episodes. There's another guy who did it as well. I'm not going to get into whose video is better because honestly we had very different approaches. He decided to keep things short, sweet, and to the point while I went into a lot more detail. True, some people could argue that I piggybacked off using too many clips from Dan Vs., but honestly I think it was warranted as it is the best way to show off how good the show is. Overall, I thought the video was really good and I hope it convinced some of you to check out Dan Vs. Well, we went from the video where I was praising my favorite TV show, now on to the video where I'm praising my favorite web show. It was only logical that I had to do a countdown about my favorite YouTuber, considering by this point I've already done 7 about Super Mario Logan. I think I made good picks and did a good job of explaining why I liked each video, and sometimes even what I thought of the movie he was reviewing. Oh god, that just sounds like the same thing I've said like 20 times throughout this video. This recap's really turning into a train wreck. Thankfully, if last year's is any indication, almost no one's going to see it. I mean, I didn't say that, yeah, this video's great, really good, nothing to see here, folks. Don't pay attention to what I just said there. Let's move on to number 1. Do I really have to bother with introductions? I mean, if you simply look at my playlist of countdowns, you already know what number 1 is. Top 11 least favorite levels in video games. So what did I like about this video? Well, I liked getting to rant on a wide variety of different levels and how each of them were bad in different ways. I did 11 because there were 11 I wanted to talk about. I kind of explained that in the video, so yeah. The best part of the video was the top 2, because both of them I were worried about. The Meat Circus because I've ranted on it non-stop, and the Wellspring Desert because there isn't that much to say about it. So it would make a pretty lackluster number 1. But I managed to pull both of them off and they turned out really good. I had fun making the video and I think it turned out awesome. I'm Dafawfulizer and I'm sorry about missing videos here and there in the last few months of this year. That was mostly due to big projects and real life stuff getting in the way. I'll be back to normal uploads very soon. But in the meantime, I am Dafawfulizer and I'll see you in January when I'll have videos where I have much more to say than I do in this one. Bye!